Earlier today, investigators found what appears to be human remains, along with personal items, such as a backpack and notebook belonging to Brian Laundrie.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. Well, we've just found out from the FBI that some of the most compelling evidence to date on Brian Laundrie, since he became a fugitive, the most wanted man in America, some evidence apparently has come to light, a notebook, a backpack, and even partial human remains. Now, we've got no idea what that actually means, how partial, how much is left of the original person, and what state it is in to perform a potential DNA analysis. If the DNA does prove a match, and bear in mind, I think the FBI went to the Laundrie home to collect DNA earlier on in this narrative, but if it does prove to be a match to the partial human remains found, then the next mystery is what happened to Brian. Did he take his own life? If he did, how did he? And did he perhaps leave a note inside that notebook? Or did he try his best to tough it out and simply failed at survival? The third possibility is that these clues have been planted and Brian Laundrie is long gone, but someone wants the search for him to be discontinued. This third possibility seems the most fanciful at this point, given the new information. Do you agree? The heavily wooded 160 acres that comprise the Myakkachi Creek Environmental Park is adjacent to the I-75 highway. I suppose the next question is, how close to this highway were these items found? Well, if you look at this map, you get an idea of the distance, and the distance is around about 5.1 miles from Wabasso Avenue to the entrance to the park. So, about 10 minutes drive, not far away at all. I think the other question to ask is, what has the situation of being underwater, what has water done to this notebook? What has water done to the backpack? What sort of evidence, what is the quality of the evidence that has been found? So for the purposes of this episode, we are going to assume that it is a DNA match for Brian Laundrie. We don't know whether it is, but at this point we're going to assume it is, and then explore the three possibilities, starting with number one, suicide. Of the three possibilities, if the human remains are Brian, then I think suicide is a realistic possibility. In the episode I was working on while these events were playing out, and I would have uploaded it instead of this one, I concluded with a question, what did Brian have left to live for? Well, many have derided Brian as a monster, but it's possible while alone, the full scale of Gabby's absence, Gabby's death, and what happened to her bore down on him. And maybe he found that very depressing, and maybe he felt very strongly that he didn't have anything left to live for. Bear in mind, there's no one around him. All he's got to work with are his own thoughts and his own isolation. And the other thing is, Brian is an artist, and artists can be temperamental and impulsive. If Brian did take his life, he may well have left behind a manifesto of sorts. Chris McCandless did, writing in his final hours, "I have had a happy life and thank the Lord. Goodbye and may God bless all." Well, one wonders whether Brian did something similar, and if he did, how much he wrote, and if anything that he wrote survived. That brings us to the second possibility, that he may have died of exposure. And part of this possibility is also, that he suffered some kind of poisonous bite, or that he was attacked by some other animal. So it's possible Brian died of exposure, but even if he did, he may have written a last will and testament. And the third possibility then is that this is another misdirection, that Brian himself or some third party or both want us to believe Brian is no longer with us. If the DNA results are not a match, or if they're inconclusive, that possibility will certainly strengthen. But that brings us back to the first possibility. If Brian did take his life, how did he? And let me remind you, this was the opening scene in the movie Fight Club. If he did take his life, and if he took her life, then the whole drama that has played out over the past month and a half feels a lot like a drawn-out incel scenario, doesn't it? And I've written a book about incels. No more, no less, just an incel scenario. And think about what Brian wrote just a year ago on July 4th, 2020, with, in terms of a picture, I think, of the engagement, I guess, an engagement photo of himself and Gabby standing under kind of an arch, and there's sort of a dead, what appears to be, could be a dead tree in the background or just a tree in the background. And then he wrote under his own profile, "Love of my life," with many exclamation marks. And I think what he said here is very true. 67 weeks ago, plus minus, he wrote that his biggest fear is that one day he'd wake up and it will all have been a dream. Well, that is possibly what happened, that he did wake up and found that it was all over. And this whole idea of "till death do us part," well, he may have taken that literally. What do you guys think? In the next episode, I will be talking about Brian's chameleon personality and how that may have a bearing on what has ultimately happened to Brian. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Like, share, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time.